Hey, good morning, great to see you all. Welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be looking at getting ready for the total eclipse that's happening in the United States in April 2024. So I'm just going to go through some of the equipment you need, how to plan for a location. If you haven't planned already for your location, you better start doing it now, and how to keep your gear and your equipment safe. At the end we'll look at some of the different features of the eclipse that you want to try to capture and go over some settings and that kind of thing for it. So let's get started. Alright, first up you're going to need something to protect your eyes. So you want to find something like some Eclipse glasses. They're just basically a film that goes over, and you can just put them on your eyes like so, and that'll protect your eyes while you're looking at the eclipse. You don't want to be looking at it through sunglasses or some kind of improvised neutral density filter. You need something that's going to be safe. Second thing you need is some filters for your camera and your lenses. So there's two types of filter that you can get. One kind of filter you can get is a screw-on filter like this. This one's from Firecrest. It will produce a white sun instead of a yellow sun. So if you want to get a yellow sun, you just need to do a little bit of work in Photoshop after the fact. But this one works great. But it's also got some extra coatings to protect the lens. So okay, that's one kind you can get. And then the other kind you can get is a mylar film like so. And you can make your own. So I've got a cutout here. I just got a cutout to fit over the end of my lens, and then you can just tape on some film onto one. This one fits my 100 to 400 just like so. You make sure that the silver film is facing the sun, and you can do it yourself. You don't have to buy something too expensive. This is just some old foam that I cut up. This is the kind of film you can get. I bought this from 1000 Oaks Optical, and I'll put some information about it in the description below the video of how to order some. Alright, another piece of equipment that might be useful is a little target thing. So you don't want to be looking at the sun. You can use this target, something like this. You just point, you put it on your lens, and this will point at the sun, and you get a little target here like that on the end here, so you can just line it up without looking at the sun itself, and it gets you roughly there. If you're using anything between a 100 and 400, this will work great. If you got something like around 600, it may be a little bit fiddly, but it's hard to get your camera aligned with the sun without looking at it. So something like this is useful because then you protect your eyes. Okay, so the other thing to think about is what kind of lens do you want to use. I've got a 600 here, and I have a 100 to 400. So for getting close-ups of the sun, I'll use one of these, most likely the 600. But I may use the 400, or I might use the 100 to 400 for doing something like a time lapse. I haven't really decided yet. And then finally, you might want to do some wide angles. So something like a 24 to 120 gives you some choices when you start out. You just need to make sure that the wide angle is going to be wide enough, have enough space so that you can get the whole eclipse in it if you want to get every stage of the eclipse. So just make sure that you figure it out ahead of time. What I suggest you do is, once you've got everything set up, you go and practice a few times before the day of the eclipse. Practice in your backyard, put on your filters, practice lining up with the sun, and then practice getting the exposures right and that kind of thing, because you don't want to be messing around on the day of the eclipse trying to figure out what you're doing. It's good to practice a few times beforehand, and then right before the eclipse, say the day before, go through all your equipment and test it one more time just to make sure you've got everything set. You've got enough time to recover and make sure that everything's packed up correctly. That's what I suggest anyway. It's up to you how you want to do it. When you're practicing, make sure that you're protecting your eyes with your Eclipse glasses, these guys, and make sure that you have all your equipment protected as well. Okay, then the last piece of equipment that I suggest is a tracker that will track the sun for you. You can set this up on your tripod and then put your camera on top of it, and then this will track the sun as you're going. If you're using a longer telephoto, 400, 500, 600 or above that, having a tracker will make it so much easier because you don't have to try to readjust every few minutes. I think the sun on a 600 will go across the frame in about 4 minutes or something like that. It doesn't take very long to go across, so you're going to be constantly readjusting. Having a tracker will make it much easier, and it won't take away from you actually viewing the eclipse. You want to be able to watch the eclipse as well as take pictures of it. So having a tracker makes a big difference. It's not vital, but it makes it a lot easier if you can get one and practice with it. And I'll show a video of the setup of that in a moment. Alright, so that's the basic gear. Some filters, a tracker, decide what lenses you want to get, and then go out and practice. Next part of this video, we're going to look at your location, finding a location, finding a good spot, and then how to get ready for the eclipse by checking, once you've got your location, the time the eclipse is going to be at max, and when it's going to start and end, and the angle in the sky. And we can do that all online, and I'll just go through the whole process in a moment. Alright, let's get back to the computer and have a look at how to get ready for the eclipse. Alright, so now I'm at the computer and we're going to look at a few different maps that we can use to figure out a good location for watching the eclipse. First one I'm going to use is time and date. With time and date, you want to go to the sun and moon drop down and then find eclipses, and then you're going to pick April 8th, 2024. Get rid of that. Alright, so this is just going to show you some maps of the eclipse. So here you can expand for a list of cities, and we can just pick something like Dallas, Texas, and it will show us some time about information about the eclipse, when it's going to happen, when maximum is going to be, the totality, and so on. There's also this detailed view thing here. You can click on that and it will give you a little bit more information about the entire eclipse, when the corona is going to start, when you can see the diamond band, the diamond ring, Bailey's beads, etc. So we'll look at that in a moment, okay? And then the next map I want to talk about is the Xjubier maps. These are maps that show you all the eclipses that happened historically for many, many years, several decades, and going into the future. And here again, it just shows you the whole map going across Mexico and the United States, and you can just zoom into a location and see where it is. So the edge of the total eclipse, where you can see totality, is going to be these red bands, and then the blue one is the center of the eclipse. And again, if you look down in Texas, you can see Dallas is in between the red and the blue, so you'll see the total eclipse, but you may not, you won't see it for as long as you can if you go to where closer to the blue band. And then finally, there's this interactive map from eclipse2024.org, and it shows again the eclipse going across from Mexico into the United States, and you can click into it. What's nice about this one is that you can get an interactive view of what the eclipse is going to look like from the location you have. So it's kind of nice to use to just see what the eclipse will look like as you're sitting there watching it. I'll look at that in a moment. First we're going to look at the eclipse information from time and date, and I'll just go over how you can do that. So like I said, if you click this detailed view, you can see the entire progress. You can see the time it's going to happen. These are local times. The corona is going to appear around 1:40, and you can take off your filters from your lenses about 30-40 seconds before totality begins. So if you're using 1338, that would be about the time you want to just take off your filters, and then you can see, you need that to see all the rest of the eclipse features. And then right before the end of it, you're going to need to put the filters back on. Say you want to see where the eclipse is going to be and it's not in one of the cities that they have in their drop down, you can click on the interactive map. You can zoom in and pick a location, and I picked a location here. I can pick another one, so somewhere along the totality map, like right here, You can see what it's going to be. It'll give you that basic information about where the partial eclipse will begin at 12:19, when the maximum is going to be about 1:38, and when it ends at just before 3 o'clock. If you click on this little blue button here, it'll go to a more detailed view. Click on the detailed view, and then for that particular location you clicked on, it'll give you all the extra information you need. So when the shadow bands will be, the corona, the diamond ring, Bailey's beads, etc. So that's one nice option for finding a good place to view and photograph the eclipse. The second map here, Xjubier's one, you can just click in and see locations. It doesn't give you all the fine detailed information, but it can give you you can get a good sense of where you might want to go, what location you might want to choose. You can go up into some of these other states. I was just using Texas, but Arkansas, or up into Illinois, Indiana, etc. And maybe it's going to come right over what a city or you have relatives in or something, and you can just head out over there. And then finally there's this interactive map from 2024, eclipse2024.org. And what's different about this one is you can zoom in on it, and let me see, so let's just pick a city down here somewhere. We've got this city here, it's just off of the total eclipse, so click on it, and then you can go and look at the interactive simulator for the eclipse right here. Click agree, and then what it's going to do is it's just going to give you this timeline here, and you can watch the eclipse happen. And this is kind of useful if you want to just see. So as the eclipse progresses, you can see what time it's going to be happening, and then as you get to totality, right here it'll be around 1:30, and then you can just fine-tune it for looking at the diamond ring, and then the full corona, and down here you can see what time that's going to be at that location, Lampasas, Texas. And then as it progresses across, when totality starts to end, you just get that last bit of the diamond ring at 1:39. So remember, the eclipse is coming from Mexico up into Texas, and then across the United States up to the northeast. So the times further south will be earlier, the times further north will be later. Alright, so I like those three different maps. They can give you one for exploring where you could go, one that gives you this interactive map, and then the time and date one, which gives you timing for all the different stages of the eclipse. Alright, so once you've figured out where you're going to go, what are the things you want to try to capture in the eclipse? So some people might just be interested in capturing the totality and the features that happen then. Others might want to just watch the entire eclipse and try to get something like this, where you start from the beginning and just watch the whole thing. If you do that, it's going to be like a 2.5 hour, 3 hour project, but it's really up to you as a photographer what you want to do. The key things you want to capture or try to capture during totality, or just at the close to totality, are the diamond ring. So right when totality begins, you'll get the last little glimpse of the sun coming through right at the edge of the ring of the moon as it covers the sun. And then the next thing you want to capture is going to be the Bailey's beads, which are, you can see the sun coming through the edges of the mountains on the moon as the moon crosses the sun. And then finally you want to capture probably the prominences, the little red areas that you might see around the moon. And let me see if I can, I'll show some pictures of those in a moment. And then finally you want to capture totality and the corona. to capture all of these features, you need to expose at a bunch of different exposures. So the best thing to do is set up your camera for as many steps as possible, maybe 7, maybe 9 steps of exposure on each side of your base exposure that you choose. So then you can get anything from a 1/2000th down to maybe a whole second in one capture. It really depends on your camera. On mine, I can set it to 9 different stops, so I can just use a couple of different base exposures and get images from a 2,000th of a second down to a second or two. And you want to do that to make sure that you get the full range of the corona as well as all the prominences and diamond ring. When I show some images of that in a moment, I'll put some exposure values in as well so that you can see what we're looking at. Okay, so here you can see this is the corona with the sun being completely obscured, and if you come in a little bit closer, you can see some of the prominences along the edges here and right here. So those are some things you might want to capture. And then here's an example of the diamond ring with the corona coming in, and let's see, there's a better. And then here you can see some of the prominences happening. So there's some examples of what you might want to try to capture during the eclipse. These images are from the 2017 eclipse that happened up in Oregon, or at least I took them up in Oregon. It happened across part of the central United States into the Pacific Northwest. I'll give some exposure information for like base exposures that I use, and then as I said, I'll show you some exposures for some of the different features that I captured previously, so you have an idea of what you might want to start at for your base exposure. As I said before, the best thing to do is to go out and practice. So once you've got everything set up, go out, find the sun with your camera and your lens, and then just try some base exposures so you have something to work with before you arrive at your location. And then you can just have a plan, set everything up. For instance, one plan you might want to do is take a picture every 5 minutes during the eclipse. So set a timer, and then you know exactly when you need to take the pictures. If it's within a few seconds, it doesn't matter, but try to get several exposures at every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes if you're doing the whole eclipse. Otherwise, if you just want to plan on capturing the totality, make sure you have your filters set up. Then you can have some pictures of the sun right before the totality happens, and then take the filters off, change your exposure slightly, and then capture a bunch of different exposures using the auto step feature on your camera. And like I said, I can use I think 7 or 9 exposure steps, so that's what I'm going to do. Make sure you have fun, make sure you have your protective glasses, don't look at the sun without glasses on, and have a great time, and I hope to see you after the eclipse on another video. Okay, hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, and if you have comments, add them in the comment section below the video and I will attempt to answer them. See you in the next one, and enjoy the eclipse, everybody.